Daf Yomi, Tractate Menachot, page 31b, with the words Amar Rav Zeira. Zeira. Not Rav Zeira, but Rav Zeira. Amar Rav Zeira, almost at the top of the page. One line into it. Amar Rav Zeira, Amar Rav Chananel, Amar Rav Kera, Habab, בשתי שיטין יספור בשלוש על יספור אומר לי רבא זוטי רב אשי הוך יאמר רב ירמיה מדיפתי בשמי דרובה הודם בשלוש על תח יספור לא יאמרן אלא בעתיקתה אבל חדתה letlan ba. Rav Zeira says, the Rav Chananel says that Rav says, if a tear in the parchment of a Torah scroll extends into 2 lines, one can sew the parchment to render the scroll fit, but if it extends into 3 lines, then one cannot sew it to render it fit. Rabbi Zuti said to Rav Ashi. This is what Rabbi Yirmiyah Difti said in the name of Rave. That which we say, if the tear extends into 3 lines, one cannot sew it to render it fit, if we say only with regard to old sheets of parchment. But in the case of new sheets of parchment, we have no problem with it. Vilo atikata mamash. לא חדתה ממש, אלא דלא יפצן, יפצן, אפיצן, והנמילה בגידין, אבל בגרודין, לא. The Gemara asks, and old does not mean literally old, and new does not mean literally new. Rather, those sheets of parchment that are not processed with gall are labeled as old, and cannot be sewn, whereas those sheets of parchment that are processed with gall are labeled as new and can be sewn. And this statement, that one can sew the parchment and render it fit, applies to sewing it with sinew. But if one sews the parchment with thread, it is not rendered fit. Boy Rav Yehuda bar Abba, bein daf ledaf, bein shita leshita mai teiku. So what? This is the, how many tekus? This is the 244th teku, I think. I think so. 244 teku in Shas. Yay. We only have 80 something left to go. And then we finish all the tekus in Shas. Boy Rav Yehuda bar ben daf ledaf in shita mai teku. Rabbi Yehuda bar Abba, not Barabbas, but Bar Abba. Rabbi Yehuda Bar Abba asks, if the tear occurred in the space between one column and another column, but it was of the length that it had occurred inside a column, it would have extended more than 3 lines. And similarly, if the tear occurred between one line and another line horizontally, but not tearing through any letters. What is the halacha? No answer was found, and therefore the dilemma shall stand unresolved until the coming of the Messiah. Amen. Amar Rav Zeiri, Amar Rav Chananel, Amar Rav Zeshikos V'Shtayim Shtayim, K'Shei Belu Shtayim, V'Sholosh Achas Mau, Amar Rav Nachman Yitzchok, Kol Shekein She'asok Sheiro. Rabbi Zeira says that Rabbi Chananel says that Rav says that one wrote 2 by 2, meaning 2 words on each line, is fit. A dilemma was raised before the sages. If one wrote 2 words on one line and 3 words on the following line and 1 word on the line after that, what is the halacha? Rabbi Nachman said, all the more so that it is fit, as he prepared it as one writes a poem in the Torah scroll. The song sung by the Jewish people at the sea after the Exodus is written in lines whose length is not uniform. The Gemara raises an objection from a right. If one wrote it as one writes a poem in the Torah, or if one wrote a poem in the Torah as one writes it, it is unfit. The Gemara answers when that bright is taught, it is referring to a Torah scroll, not a mezuzah. Itmar nami. Amar Rabba bar Chana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan bar Minhia, Amar Rav Acha bar Chana. Rav Acha bar Chana. Were they brothers? Rav Acha bar Chana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Mezuzah she'asa shtayim v'shalosh v'yachas k'shero. ומלבד שלא יעשנו כקובה, ומלבד שלא יעשנו כזנב. It was stated by Amoraim as well. Rabba bar Chana says that, Rabbi Yochanan says, and some say that it was Acha bar Chana who says that Rabbi Yochanan says, with regard to a mezuzah, that one prepared with 2 words on one line, and 3 words on the following line, and 1 word on the line after that, it is fit, provided that he does not prepare it like the shape of a tent, meaning progressively widening the lines, starting with a line of 1 word, then a line of 2 words, and a line of 3, and provided that he does not prepare it like the shape of a tail, progressively shortening the lines from 3 words to 2 to 1. Amar Rav Chizda al ha'oretz b'shita chorin ikad amri b'soif shita ikad amri b'tchilas shita. Rav Chizda says one writes the last 2 words of mezuzah al ha'oretz, meaning above the earth, Deuteronomy 11:21, by themselves on the final line without the preceding word. The sages disagreed as to how this is done. Some say that one writes this phrase at the end of the final line, and some say that one writes it at the beginning of the final line. Man de'omar b'sof shita k'gavoha shemayim ha'oretz. Man de'omar b'tchilas shita k'hechid b'meracha ka shemayim ha'oretz. The Gemara explains their dispute. The one who says that one writes it at the end of the final line interprets the verse that your days may be multiplied, and the days of your children upon the land which the Lord swore to your father to give to them, as the days of the heaven and the earth. In a similar manner, the verse, for as the heaven is high above the earth, Psalms 103:11. Consequently, if one writes above the earth at the end of the final line, it will appropriately be below the term the heaven at the end of the previous line. And the one who says that one writes it at the beginning of the final line explains the verse as the days of the heaven above the earth, as meaning just as the heaven is far from the earth. Consequently, if one writes above the earth at the beginning of the final line, it is far from the term the heaven at the end of the previous line. Amar Rabbi Chelbo said, Chazina le'el Rav Hunan dichorech la me'echad klape shema Yosef parashioteha stumos. Rabbi Chelbo said, I saw Rav Hunan wrap a written mezuzah from the word echad to the word shema, meaning rolling it from left to right, as the verse written in the mezuzah is. Listen, hear Israel, Lord our God is one. Echad, Deuteronomy 6:4, and he prepared the 2 passages of the mezuzah in the closed manner, meaning starting the second passage, Deuteronomy 11:13-21, on the same line that he finished writing the first passage, Deuteronomy 6:4-9. Meismi Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Rabbi Meir Haya kosva al duchsustus kemin daf. The Gemara raises an objection from a Breita. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar said Rabbi Meir would write a mezuzah on duchsustus, the inner layer of an animal hide, and not on parchment, which is from the outer layer, and he would prepare it like a column of a Torah scroll, meaning long and narrow.